Here we are, friends. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football on a Christmas night with just a few short minutes left in the 2019 holiday. And then we'll move on to December 26th and more bowl games as we get the Power Five in play, full throttle starting on December 26th with Pitt and Miami from the ACC in action. It will be interesting to see, considering a lot of detractors, a lot of critics of ACC football. I don't know where they are. I don't know. Can we find one? Can we possibly find a detractor, a critic of ACC football in 2019? The ACC will, of course, get another shot at redeeming itself during this postseason, starting with Miami taking on Louisiana Tech and Pitt taking on Eastern Michigan on a Thursday night. So let's keep in mind, as we evaluate those teams and the conference as a whole, we are not going to do what other outlets do and simply say, well, the Big Ten went 4-5 and the ACC went 6-3 and the SEC went this and this. No, it has to do with opponents. You have to evaluate and judge the opponents. The ACC tomorrow night is playing Eastern Michigan and Louisiana Tech. There is a game the next day against Temple. So the opponents for the ACC are not exactly murderers row. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We got 17 on the line, and I thank you so much for your flexibility. As I have stated in recent weeks, our goal, one of many in the offseason, will be to post a regular live stream schedule. In the meantime, of course, you can call in at 860-325-3687 to talk postseason college football. We're right in the midst of it, and this is my very favorite time of the year. I've enjoyed the bowl games to date, and if you caught my instant analysis of BYU and Hawaii, I especially enjoyed that game last night. I didn't watch it live because I was enjoying Christmas Eve with my kids, but after they went to bed, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I was watching BYU and Hawaii. Didn't miss a play. Watched it, loved it. Great game. Went down to the wire. Exciting game. That's what bowl season's all about. You had two teams going after each other and a lot of big plays and high scores and close game. And not many people in the stands. That doesn't matter. It was a great game to watch, as Hawaii won it to finish at 10-5. I find it interesting that Hawaii will join the two teams that play in the national championship game as the only three teams in America. Out of 130 teams, there will be 3 teams in America that will play 15 games. The national champion, the national runner-up, the 1 and 2 teams, and Hawaii. They finished at 10-5 after beating BYU, an outcome that I wasn't real happy with. Not that I've got anything against Nick Rolovich or the Rainbow Warriors, but I picked BYU, and they should have salted away that game. Should have salted away the game, but they made some bad decisions and some poor plays, and I outlined that in my instant analysis. So if you want to get one more look at the Hawaii Bowl, and I know that there is great demand for that, please check out my video post. Just minutes ago, it will even look like it was just shot minutes ago because it was shot minutes ago. I was sitting in the same spot, looked the same, exactly the same row, wardrobe and attire and the whole deal. The hair was exactly the same. Yeah, I just cut the Miami, Louisiana Tech preview. 860-325-3687. And let's check out the comments. Nice Guy TV, DeAndre, thank you so much for the contribution. This guy just, man, he is a loyal supporter and viewer. Love to get on the phone with DeAndre and mix it up on Clemson, the ACC, and college football. And DeAndre and I go back, of course, to the 80s and 90s and talking college football. And that is the type of contribution that will, if it's joined by others, will make a world of difference. Newbie Doobie was talking about this the other night. He was all over that live chat, encouraging people just to throw in a buck or two. 17,000 subscribers, a buck or two. Man, I'm here all the time. We're talking college football all the time, and the content would never end. All right, let's get to the comments. Cheryl Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for the support. You've been amazing this year. Cheryl, let me know when you started to watch. I'm going to guess, Cheryl, that you started to watch in March. That's just a guess off the top of my head. I don't think you were with us last college football season. I don't believe so. And again, DeAndre, Merry Christmas. Check out Nice Guy TV. Don't know why you named it that, but check it out. Oh, we got to call in. Maybe it's DeAndre. That's my guess. Cheryl has never called. Cheryl has never called me. The call will start at the beat. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Nobody's on the line. They hung up. They were scared. All right. Willie, good to see you. Merry Christmas, Willie. I hope everybody enjoyed time with family and friends. I had to work for some of Christmas Day, but Christmas was basically over at that point. I enjoyed a tremendous Christmas Eve with my kids. We had a beautiful dinner that was cooked mainly by my daughter. We had Christmas Eve service. We watched Elf. Yes, we watched Elf. My 20 and 23-year-olds wanted to watch Elf. Then we started to dip into Santa Claus is Coming to Town and How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Year Without a Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman. We started to dabble into the classics. And I was a little bit more interested this year in the classics than they were. They used to be really interested in the classics 15 years ago. And now they've seen them a zillion times and they're 20 and 23. So, and then they went to bed and I dived into the Hawaii Bowl. And I posted instant analysis just for you in Hawaii going to 10-5 this season. So please check it out. Brad, good to see you. Merry Christmas. With a number of you, and these are the first two comments out of the regulars with Cheryl and DeAndre, where Willie, Brad, how long have you guys been watching? Who do you root for? That's what I've always liked to know when I see handles of folks jumping on the live chat for the first time. And other than that, we have to say, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. It's great to have you. Willie likes the two underdogs to win in the national semifinal games. Oklahoma, Ohio State, a repeat of the flag planting in Columbus. And of course, also, hang on just a second. We don't have the speaker on. Give me a second. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's DeAndre. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, DeAndre. I appreciate the contribution, sir.
Happy Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Whatever you're going.
Oh, I'm a Merry Christmas guy. Christmas is what it's all about for me.
Yeah, my kids rake my pockets.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You got to budget those things, DeAndre.
Oh, yeah. Still don't seem like it helps sometimes.
You got too big of a heart.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, because I work with kids, and said, I try to spoil my kids because I didn't have a father in my life.
Yeah.
I had some great, like, as I done told the story plenty of times, I had uncles who played at Clemson who were like father figures to me. That's why I love Clemson football so much. And I just try to spoil my kids because I say, they only one young once, and they're never gonna have when you hit 18, life gets a little bit more harder for you.
That's right.
Because you're responsible for your own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. So, I try to do the best I can for them.
Oh, I'm sure you do a fine job. DeAndre, you live a little closer to Wake Forest, correct? So you attend more Demon Deacons games.
No, I live closer to Chapel Hill,
okay,
NC State, and Duke. The reason why I go to a lot of Duke and Wake Forest games is because their tickets are cheaper. So you can go, like, I'll give you an example. I think I went to Notre Dame Wake Forest. Those tickets are like $30.
Nice.
Even if Notre Dame ain't Notre Dame what it used to be, it's still Notre Dame. You know? So I went to that. I go to a lot of their games. You can get tickets. I mean, for $12, a little bit more better seats and stuff like that. But I live close to the Carolina Duke and because that's a triangle, the 8 miles of hate, whatever you want to call it between those schools.
So DeAndre, after Saturday, it's going to be interesting what you and other Clemson fans will put into the live chat in responding to Ohio State videos and Ohio State fans. Because it's not going to be 31-0. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be 35-0. I don't know, but it's no longer going to be 31-0. So we're not going to see this 31-0 anymore that we see all the time now.
Oh yeah, you know what, Martin, and I'm going to be real honest with you.
Yeah.
As a football fan and a betting guy, I see that Clemson is a negative 2.5 favorite. I'm kind of shocked. And, I don't really have a lot of respect for Big Ten football. But I will say that by the amount of people that they have in the top 25, Ohio State has played a better schedule than Clemson. And I also would like to point out, Ohio State, they don't just get players from Ohio State, the state itself. They go down to Texas and Florida, and they got a lot of speed and a lot of talent on that particular team. And being a good football state, that's a great combination. So I don't know how Vegas made Clemson a favorite, to be honest with you. There's a lot of question marks. KJ Henry, to me, hasn't played as well as he should have. Xavier Thomas, I know he had a couple of concussion injuries during the year, so he hasn't played. So I know everybody says, well, their stats are better, but where are these two superstars that were top 10 in the a couple years ago in the nation as far as recruits? Foster hasn't gotten off like he should have. There's not that dominant presence yet. But, on the flip-fly side, Fields is hurt. Clemson have seen better receivers than what Ohio State has. And when I say they have seen better receivers, outside of the guy that went from receiver to quarterback, they have experience against Waddle, Judy, and all these other people that they played last year. So I'm kind of interested how Vegas came up with Clemson being a negative 2-point favorite. Only reason why I can see it is, baby, because of how good the offensive line is of Clemson. And they done played against, like I heard you say in your show, they done played a lot of football, and they played some of the best Alabama talent has to offer. They done went up against Auburn a few times, I think. They that's the only reason why I think they could be favored, because of that offensive line. So I don't know what Vegas came up with and made that pick being a negative 2.5. I know a lot of people say that's really a coin flip, but I'm just wondering.
Well, Vegas likes stability. Vegas likes known commodities, and this Clemson team is a known commodity in the playoffs.
Right. So, and I just think that Ohio State is a very, very good team. Like I said, I'm just saying, I'm put this in the correct terms. I don't think Ohio State has seen the talent that Clemson has, like far as defensively and the speed.
Sure.
And people are going to come back and say, well, Clemson has not seen the talent that Ohio State has.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say talent, Florida State has talent.
They don't. Keep going, DeAndre.
They're not as good a team as they. Yes, sir.
And they're not as talented. either.
Well, you don't think Texas A&M has more talent than Wisconsin and Penn State?
Oh, Wisconsin and Penn State. We're talking about Clemson has not seen Ohio State talent, just like Ohio State has not seen Clemson talent.
Right.
I would say Texas A&M by far, by not far, but considerably, decidedly is the best talent that Clemson has seen this year. Texas A&M may not be the best team, probably is still the best team, but they're the most talented team Clemson's seen this year.
Right. So, and that's what I'm interested in saying. This game is a total coin flip. I don't think it's going to be 31-0. That year they close to being 31-0. I mean, they had a lot of talent on that team. They still have, I think Ward was at defensive back for them and a couple other guys. Steve Poser might have played at that time. They still had a lot of talent. That was just a shocker. And they just saw T.J. Barrett, who I can't believe that the Steelers going to give a workout to. He just couldn't throw the ball down the field. I think Dobbs was on that team. They had some talent on that team.
Okay, J.K. Dobbins was not on that team.
He wasn't?
No.
Who was the quarterback? Was it Webb?
Mike Weber was the main running back on that team.
Right.
Mike Weber got his first carry in the third quarter in that game. He gained almost 1,000 yards that season. He didn't get a carry until the third quarter. I have no idea why.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm going to sit back and relax and enjoy it. I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
I think so, too.
Yes. And another point I'd like to make, Ohio State had a lot of trouble with their linebackers, but last year?
Yes, last 2 years.
Are going to improve. Right. I don't know how good they are this year, but I haven't really seen them get any major recruits in that have changed that narrative. I mean, I heard Wisconsin. I didn't get a chance to watch all the game, but Wisconsin gave them trouble running crossing routes, and I heard Michigan also did. Michigan has very slow receivers, from my understanding. That's why they had that lot of trouble with that. What they call place speed and space.
Michigan has slow receivers.
Now, when I say that, compared to everybody else, they do. That's why.
Compared to everybody else, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tariq Black, Ronnie Bell, Nico Collins. Those guys are slow. Those guys are excellent receivers.
Now, I didn't say they were excellent. I said they were slow.
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of really good receivers out there that are slow. That's usually that's usually a bit of an oxymoron. Oh, this guy's a great receiver, but he's slow.
Well, okay. Keyshawn Johnson, he wasn't super fast, but he was a great receiver, right?
Well, he wasn't slow. Yes, they're the best receivers in the NFL aren't necessarily the fastest guys. Absolutely. I know that when we watched this past combine, there was a tremendous graphic that the NFL Network ran. They showed the 5 or 6 best wide receivers in the NFL right now: Julio Jones, AJ Green, Antonio Bryant or Antonio Brown. I'm going way back. Antonio Brown, about the 5 or 6 best, and showed their 40 times at the combine, and none of them were that impressive. They were in the 4-5 range.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but what I'm just saying is the talk shows that I have watched, one of the problems at Michigan football, they didn't have, like, I'll give you an example. One reason why I think Clemson struggled this year because they didn't have that fast switch receiver like they had with Tyler Renfro. Now, Clemson has good receivers, but Tyler Renfro knew how to get open in space because he was so fast.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an example I should have used. They didn't have people like Tyler Renfro. That's what gave them trouble.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about 2 different types of wide receivers. You're talking about the lean, lanky sprinter guys, the big body guys that can high point the football, stretch the field, outfight the defender down the field. Then you got, the Hunter Renfros in the slot, find the space, almost impossible to cover in a small space because they're so quick. Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Hunter Renfro types. Yeah, you need both.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I heard that game.
Yeah, Michigan doesn't have a guy like that. You are absolutely right. Michigan does not have that guy.
Right.
You know who else is having a good career in the NFL that was the Hunter Renfrow before Hunter Renfrow is Adam Humphries is having a nice career in the NFL. He's that kind of receiver.
Oh, yeah. Out of Cruz.
Yep.
Yeah, he got paid with Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, he's doing pretty good. But like I said, though, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I hope that I hope Clemson wins, but how often do you see a team keep winning in today's time period like Clemson is winning and not have a hiccup? I mean, they got 80. I think they said they have 80 freshmen on this, 80 freshmen and sophomore on this team, one of the youngest teams. So I wouldn't be shocked that they lost. I mean, Ohio State's a great program. I know our team's Ohio State fans are 31 and that, but I mean, it happens. I mean, how often has Clemson got beat 70-35 again by West Virginia?
West Virginia
on a night like I mean, it happens, and it just happened to do that particular night. I mean, you play over 1,000 games in a lifetime, you're going to get beat sometime like that. And then it just happened to happen to Ohio State by Clemson that night.
Well, that game was also certainly Clemson dominated the game. I'm not trying to explain away 31-0, but because the Clemson defense just had its way with the Ohio State offensive line. So Ohio State lost its best offensive lineman like the first series of the game. Not that that would have changed anything. Michael Jordan got knocked out at left tackle, and then the guy that they replaced him with, Demetrius Knox, was a mess in that game, number one. Number two, Ohio State, if you recall, the first two drives of the game were in field goal range and missed field goals. The field goal kicker missed.
Right.
And if anybody
his first two games, you missed all year,
no, they were having field goal issues late in the season. They missed a couple against Michigan. And the game was 10-0 just a few minutes before halftime. So it was a slow bleed. It wasn't any kind of flurry, but defensively, Ohio State played fine. Even though they gave up 31 points, they were just gassed in the second half. Yeah, JT Barrett, it was the offensive line for Ohio State, couldn't handle that defensive front for Clemson, and JT Barrett I love the guy. I think he was a gamer. He did everything he could with what he had, but to compare him and Deshaun Watson, oh my word, there's no comparison. And for anybody that knew Ohio State football and watched them that year, that was the worst Urban Meyer team. That was the worst one. They were still good, obviously, but they had the youngest team in the country that year. They had the youngest team in the country, and they lost a ton from the team that was just loaded with Michael Thomas and Ezekiel Elliott the year before and Joey Bosa. They lost all those guys from the year before. And the other interesting aspect to that game was, I was just going to say, anybody that watched Ohio State football that year and watched them play Michigan, it was a struggle to get a first down against Michigan. That team only beat Northwestern 24-20. They couldn't score much against anyone. So I left that Michigan game thinking this team will not compete with Clemson. But over the course of about a month, thinking about, Urban Meyer, he always figures it out. And at that point, his playoff record and bowl record was just ridiculously good. I thought, they'll figure it out. It's Ohio State. And I went back and forth on who was going to win that game, and I pulled the trigger on Ohio State. There might have been a little bias involved there. But, and Clemson was just obviously the much better team. One other note from that game, DeAndre, I was doing some research the other day. I cut a video on the 2016 game. I was impressed that 3 of Clemson's main offensive linemen, I got my notes here somewhere. Anyway, those guys played significant minutes against Ohio State in 2016.
And Simpson, Pollard, Alikert, and Simpson.
Yes.
All 3 of them played.
That's
why I was shocked. They beat Alabama the next in that playoff game. I always tell people that team that lost Alabama kick return.
Yeah.
I always felt that team should have won, and the team
Okay.
that actually won it should have lost to Alabama. But for some reason that year, they played well because Pollard's been up and down the offensive line. He's been starting right tackle. He's been right guard. Then they moved to the center, and Simpson. And this is why I say I watched a lot of Clemson football this year.
Sure.
Like they said, Simpson was first team all conference. I mean, not all conference, but all American.
Yep.
I was like, wow. I mean, really? I'm like, I don't see him put the effort in like I might have seen some other people. But I mean, who really watches offensive line plays?
Especially sports writers.
Really get blown up.
Especially sports writers. If they were asking NFL personnel directors that have been watching these guys because they got to work on the NFL draft, that would be one thing. But yeah, I gotta question some of these All-America teams when it comes to offensive line play.
Yeah, because like Mitch Hyatt, I mean, who started there for 4 years before Cameron Jackson, he didn't even get drafted. And I'm like, I mean, Mitch Hyatt, I mean, he won 2 titles. I mean, and he never even got drafted. So I mean, I wonder about Clemson offensive line play sometimes. That's why when I see this, I'm like, where's the real big advantage that Clemson has? And everybody keeps talking about how I heard Tom Mache say this is the best Clemson offensive line in 20 years. And I had to sit there like, I like, well, when has Clemson had a good offensive line outside of 1981? And when I say that, if you remember the left tackle for Clemson that year, he went to medical school instead of going to the NFL. And he was really good, and because he was on the team with my uncle. And I said, well, whatever happened to him? Did he ever go to the NFL? Because Tuttle and all them other guys got drafted, and he was supposed to be one of the best left tackles in the country. My uncle said, he went to medical school. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I asked those questions sometimes, like, what do they see that we don't see? And I understand that we don't have the same tapes they have.
Sure.
And that's why I say, when I hear people say, this is close to the best offensive line in 20 years, they have all this talent. I thought Mitch Hyatt, you're a 4-year starter, and you don't give up a sack against Alabama, you don't get drafted. How really good is his offensive line? So I can't wait to see this game between Ohio State and Clemson. And I'm going to be looking as a football fan, not as a Clemson fan. I do feel like, I just believe that outside of linebacker and receiver, I think they're just about equal. I think Clemson receivers are better, but I think Clemson got better linebackers. But I think that Ohio State defensive line has played a lot better than Clemson defensive line, and I just can't wait for that matchup. I mean,
I'd go.
Be a great game.
I'd go. Not that these units play against each other, so it's kind of just. It's a ranking where you're really not ranking matchups. You're just ranking units, and they don't play against each other. But I'll go quarterback, Clemson, slight advantage. Running back, even. Wide receivers, Clemson, somewhat of an advantage. Tight ends, Ohio State, but I think it's inconsequential. Offensive line, I think, is fairly even, but I'll slight with Clemson. Defensive line, Ohio State. Linebackers, I think, is pretty even, and I think the secondary goes to Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just think that Ohio State secondary is a beast, and they're tall and fast. So, I mean, I think Texas A&M has some too. But like I said, the only thing I can think of is that Vegas is looking at the fact that Clemson, and I know everybody's going to say that happened in January, but these guys, because they have so much experience playing, that they done seen this team be some of the similar talent that you're going to see on Saturday. That's the only reason why I think. And Fields being hurt too. I heard he's only 80-85%. That's why I say Clemson's defensive line got to step up. If they step up and they hit Fields and you force Fields to run the ball and they hit him, I think they have a better chance because Fields is hurt, and he's going to be wearing that long leg brace. But I think Clemson's secondary can go one-on-one with the receivers without having to play a lot of two deep. Because to me, Fields, I haven't seen Fields be a pocket passer and have to stand there. I haven't seen it. You probably have, because you probably watched the games for it. But I want to see what's going to happen when he has to be forced to throw the ball and keep it on those quarterback dives and they key on dives.
Yeah,
gauging
his mobility in the first quarter is going to be key. The first couple drives, to see him have to take off and run and take a hit's going to be interesting, because it was announced just the other day that he's going to play with the smaller brace. He had to play with a big, bulky brace in the Big Ten championship game, but they're going to go with the smaller brace that's less inhibitive. So,
and that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
And like I said, I all jokes aside, 31-0, what happened in 1978, the Woody Hayes touching the guy, that don't got nothing to do with what's going to happen on this thing. The 2004, was a 2014 game where Sammy Winkers went off. That don't have nothing to do with what happens this coming up week right there.
Sure.
No guys and playing.
That's a really good game.
You know, Clemson they only played 3 times in history, so Clemson just got them better than 3 times. I'm sure they would have played all the way through the 80s and 90s. Ohio State would have won a lot of them matchups. So, you know, Ohio State's has a better program history, so I respect Ohio State. I'm going to make fun of them.
Of course.
We got the advantage.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, we got the advantage, but I mean, they play more consistently. You know, you know how I feel about Michigan. I respect Ohio State way more than I respect Michigan's history. So,
all right, DeAndre.
I'll keep listening to the show, man. You have a great night.
All right, Merry Christmas. I appreciate the call and the contribution, of course.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
My man DeAndre, bringing it. Thomas Lee. This is the first time I've seen Thomas Lee. I have never seen this man's name ever. He's obviously an Ohio State fan. And look at this contribution. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thomas, thank you so much. Thanks for your efforts, Mark. First season following along and made it all the better. Thank you. Ryan Day will look hopeless on that sideline looking for answers. That was the look that Urban Meyer had in the second half especially. Well, pretty much from about the third drive on. As I mentioned that Mike Weber in that game in 2016 did not receive a carry until the third quarter. He popped one for about 10 yards up the gut, and then his second attempt, he fumbled. Ohio State had a little bit of something going there around midfield. Not too big of a threat, and Weber fumbled on his second carry, and then they didn't give him the ball again. Ohio State really tried to feature Curtis Samuel, who, look, in the NFL right now, Curtis Samuel is having a really good career with the Carolina Panthers. But he had no help in that game. They just, the Clemson defense was swarming, was just stellar. Stellar in that game. Clemson and Alabama were the best teams in the country. I'm not so sure that the best team, Clemson fans, take no offense. The best team doesn't always win the national championship. The team that earns it wins the national championship. In this playoff era, the team that deserved, I'm never in these 5 years would I say, oh, that team didn't deserve to win the national championship, that won the national championship. That doesn't necessarily mean they're the best team, because there's only one outcome. And the best team doesn't always win on that particular night. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line. Hello? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Okay. ...2014, I do think Ohio State was the best team. Going into the playoff, I knew that Ohio State or Alabama that they were the best teams, and that was the de facto national championship game, and it proved that way. 2015, I thought that either Alabama or Ohio State were the best teams. Mark Rogers, TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus, Michael Hogue. Sorry about that. How you doing tonight, sir?
That's all right, Michael. How are you?
Not too bad. I hope you and your family had a great Christmas yesterday.
We did. It was amazing. How about yourself?
Yep. It wasn't too bad. But hey, I'm kind of torn with the Clemson Ohio State game. I'm wanting to place a wager on it, but I'm not sure which way to go. And if I do go ahead and do it, should I go on the total or go straight up?
Okay.
Points.
So let me ask you this: what motivates you to gamble? Just to have some fun with the game, or do you really want to make some money?
No, just to have fun with it.
Oh, just to have some fun. Okay. You obviously don't want to lose. I understand that, but I just want to understand the motivation, because I think some people that want to win money gambling on sports and football in particular don't necessarily understand that it doesn't, like, all games are created equal. This Pitt Eastern Michigan game tomorrow night may be a better value than playing the national championship game, if you follow me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all games are created equal. You could bet $10,000 on the Pitt Eastern Michigan game and bet $1 on the national championship game. So the importance of the game, people correlate the importance of the game to what they want to bet on games and how much they want to bet. And because it's a big game, they want to go bet a bunch of money. Well, it may not be a good value. And I don't necessarily know that Ohio State and Clemson's a great value. Just because I think it's a toss-up. I don't know to this second who I'm going to pick to win this game. So what are you asking me, to either pick the game or the point spread? The point total, I should say.
Should I take the over-under, or if I do go ahead and bet this, should I take the over-under, or should I just take
It's 63, right? Michael? Oh, we lost him. Michael, call back. Oh, Mark, there you are.
Mark. Sorry about that.
Michael, the point.
I got to get a new phone here.
The point.
Anyway, I think
the point total is 63, correct?
63.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the spread's 2.5 still in favor of Clemson.
Yes.
All right, that's what I'm debating on. Which one, if you was me, which one would you go over?
Okay, so we know from our friends in Vegas, and I've got a gentleman by the name of Steve Merrill that comes on every week and gives us the Vegas perspective, that anytime you predict a game that's under 3 points, you're basically predicting that team's going to win. You know, you don't take 2.5 points thinking the game's going to be under 3 points, because very few games, 3 is the magic number, of course. Not that there aren't games out there decided by 1 or 2 points. It happens, but it's a rarity. But if you think this game's a toss-up, then of course you may want to take the points, because there's probably a 5 to 8% chance that a team's going to win by 1 or 2 points. If you're looking at the point total, I think 63 is pretty close. So you're looking at a 33-30 game. 33-30. If anything, I think it might be a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
But I would not get my over-under advice from me. I do not look at it, predict that. I do predict the games, and I pick the games, and I do it pretty well. But the over-under, I'm not an over-under guy. I don't ever look at that.
Okay. What's up to college football playoff games? Which of the New Year's 6 games looks the most intriguing to you?
Oh, the most intriguing out of the New Year's 6. Well, we also have Memphis and Penn State. We have Virginia, Florida. Neither one of those games, I'll watch them. I like to see all the bowl games, and especially the big bowl games. I'll watch them. I don't think they're that intriguing. Wisconsin, Oregon, by far. If I could only watch one of the New Year's 6 games that is a non-playoff game, I want to see Wisconsin and Oregon play. I think that's a great matchup.
I would agree on that. And another one I'm thinking of just now would be I think it's the Red Red Box Bowl with IU and with Indiana and Tennessee.
Oh, well, that's not a
New
Year's. That's not a New Year's 6 game.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but that's just another one.
Okay, sure.
Just see what your take would be.
Indiana
looked pretty good at times, and I didn't get a chance to watch Tennessee much this year, which I'm sure you probably did. But I think that might be a good game too.
My concern with Indiana is that they did not fare well against good teams. Indiana had an extremely light schedule. For playing in possibly the best division in college football, they played 3 laughable games in non-conference play. Then they played the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten Western Division, Purdue, Northwestern, and the other game was against Nebraska. So those are the 3 teams. They missed Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. So they had a very light schedule. Now, they did play Penn State well, and they played Michigan. Well, they played them well for a half. They played Michigan State, which, of course, didn't turn out to be a very good team. But they played their best game against Penn State in a loss. Ohio State blew them off the field, but they blew everybody else in the Big Ten off the field as well. Tennessee just improved considerably from September to November. They were one of the most improved teams in the country. Tennessee's a more talented team than Indiana is.
Yeah. I would have to agree about you there. I was thinking that might be a game that might be underneath the radar that people might not be paying attention to.
Oh, sure.
That could end up being one of the best games.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I'm going to love watching that game. I totally agree.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, Mark, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. You have a great night.
Take care. You too.
Our guy Michael calling, talking about Indiana and Tennessee, man. I'm going to have to post a video preview on that. Indiana, Tennessee. Tom Allen out there, fired up. You ever see Tom Allen before these games? Man, this guy butting heads with guys wearing helmets and jumping up into the stands. And Tom Allen's a nut. But, man, if you're going to try to make Indiana football relevant, you almost need a guy like Tom Allen who's just going to overhype it and get people excited. Yeah, Tom Allen's done something there at Indiana. But let's understand, in evaluating these teams that are not the elite, we know that Clemson, despite the schedule, they're elite. They're a great team. We know that. We do know that. I don't know that they're going to beat Ohio State. But a team like Indiana at 8-4 and 5-4 in the Big Ten, you got to look at the schedule. No Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa out of the Big Ten Western Division. They missed the 3 best teams, and Illinois, actually. They missed the 4 best teams out of that division. They played the 3 worst teams. So they played the lightest schedule that you can possibly play as a Big Ten Eastern Division team. And they only played Penn State close out of the big 3. They typically, in past years, they've actually played tougher against Ohio State and Michigan than they did this year. They've played much tougher against Ohio State and Michigan in previous years than they did in getting their butts kicked 51-10 and 39-14 by Ohio State and Michigan. So Indiana, I think they're a little paper thin at 8-4. They did sneak into my final top 25 that actually makes sense for the regular season. But if that sounds like I'm leaning Tennessee, I'm leaning Tennessee. Robert says Pitt will be Eastern Michigan. I don't think they're going to be Eastern Michigan. I don't think the schools are going to change identities or swap identities. I think they possibly, Robert is telling us that Pitt will beat Eastern Michigan. Big upset there. Hurricanes will lose tomorrow. Yeah, I'm contemplating that myself. Oh, I've lost track of the stream. I apologize if I missed somebody's comments because I think I've just missed them. Robert, I have to agree Kansas State if they're playing South Carolina. I don't know what that means. Okay. Anthony, Malik Harrison, Baron Browning, Justin Hilliard, y'all have to step up. Yes. Matthew, and I apologize to everybody. I apologize to everyone if I'm keeping these calls too long. I know some people get frustrated in the live chat because the calls are too long. I'm just a kind soul. It's difficult for me to kick people off the phone. Justin Fields, 40 TDs, 1 pick. It's impressive. I know his wide receivers have a huge advantage over all the teams that they played, but he played 7 of the top 37 defenses in the nation. And those defenses were legit. Those were not paper thin rankings. Those are legit rankings. Penn State's a legit top 15 defense in the nation. Michigan is a legit top 10 defense in the nation. Wisconsin's a legit top 10 defense. Indiana's a legit top 35 defense, top 40 defense. And Justin Fields pretty well carved them all up. And he got knocked around against Wisconsin the first game especially. They were beating him up. Michigan State came out early in that game and looked good defensively. Nothing new. Oklahoma would beat Georgia. I mean, those slow Georgia boys on defense couldn't stop Joe Burrow from Athens, Ohio. Slow. Nothing new. Have you watched Joe Burrow play? I know he has a certain pigmentation to his skin that would cause you to believe that he can't run, but the boy's pretty quick. The boy can run. He's not Michael Vick, but he can run. Oklahoma would beat Georgia. If Georgia just had the right offensive approach, I think if Oklahoma and Georgia got on a football field tomorrow, I'd have to make Georgia the winner. I still think there's just too much defensive talent, and there's just too much poor Oklahoma defense that Georgia would find some plays in the passing game against that defense, and DeAndre Swift would beat up that defense, and Zamir White, and Brian Herrien. I think Georgia's offensive line would beat up Oklahoma's defense. I got to go with Georgia over Oklahoma. I think we get a little too caught up in offensive playmaking that we don't realize that a team like Georgia against a marginal defense would make plays. They would make plays. We're evaluating the Georgia offense, and certainly the Georgia offense had all sorts of issues late in the season against Auburn and LSU, defenses like that. Readjust the OU helmet. My apologies. Should we get Oklahoma in here as well? Let's bring them in. We've not given Oklahoma enough love, have we? How's that? Is that good? They're playing LSU. Boom, right there. I didn't even plan on featuring the playoff teams right there. All right. Who am I supposed to welcome, J Jobs? The official greeting goes to who? Nothing new? I don't know that I've ever welcomed nothing new. Nothing new? Yeah, there's so many people joining. See, I used to be able to. See, we used to add like one sub every 2 days. Now I add like 40 subs a day. So thank you. I'm averaging about 11 to 1,200 subs added per month. So I can't be doing this wind up with the arm every. I'd blow out a rotator cuff. But I don't know, for many of you, Anakin Skywalker, I know that you've been commenting a lot here in recent weeks, but I don't know when you started watching. It hasn't been that long. So, J Jobs, here it comes. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you for joining. Would love to know who you root for and how long you've been watching. There it is. That's the official greeting that has been made more difficult by this. I used to really bring it in here, but I can't do that anymore. This cost me too much money. Anthony, Pete Werner, we go as you go on D. We know they coming at you. Shut them up. There's a lot of truth there. Clemson has improved anything. This particular Clemson team, well, they have proven that they're better than Texas A&M and Wake and Virginia. Those would be the best teams they've played. Texas A&M, I know their record's not top 25, but they're a top 25 team. Texas A&M is a top 25 team. If you gave Texas A&M a reasonable schedule, not one of the toughest schedules in the country, but if you gave them the same schedule as Kansas State, Texas A&M wouldn't be 7-5. They'd be 10-2. Robert, yeah, Borland going to get burnt versus a running back or a wide receiver. Could be. Clemson does have playoff experience, and I don't really know that we've got a track record in this playoff era to know what that means. Of course, you throw out the first year because nobody had playoff experience. Then you go to 2015, and you had Clemson go to the national championship game against Alabama. Alabama won the whole thing. Alabama has experience, period. And, of course, they played in the previous playoff. Then in 2016, the two teams with all the experience were Clemson and Alabama in 2016. Because even though Ohio State was there 2 years earlier, they had a very young team. They had the youngest team in FBS football, Ohio State in 2016. So the two teams that had the most experience in 2016, Alabama and Clemson, and I'm not talking about talent or anything else, just experience, made it. 2017, Georgia had no experience in the playoff, but of course, in the first round, they were playing an Oklahoma team that had no experience in the playoff either, basically. Oklahoma, of course, made it in 2015. So some of those players had played, but they lost to Georgia. Georgia had no experience in the playoff. Alabama versus Clemson, of course, they both had a ton of experience. And then last year, Alabama beat Oklahoma. And yeah, so I don't know that we have a lot to go on in regards to experience playing a factor. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
I see a lot of Ohio State fans talking junk in the live chat to me. So I called back to say this. Even if Ohio State wins on Saturday, which is a strong possibility, Clemson still will have a 3-1 record versus Ohio State, so they still own them. So I just had to call back and say that to Anakin Skywalker, I believe.
Yeah, if you want to look at it that way, we could certainly go through the annals of college football history, and we could size up who owns who based on that criteria, and we would come up with some interesting results all over the place.
Yeah, because I think Duke has a winning record versus Michigan.
Duke does against Michigan. Okay.
Or Carolina. I think it's Carolina or Duke. I saw it last week.
Sure.
And they have a winning record versus Michigan. But last time they played was 1940. Mark, if people from, I was talking to a guy, he went to Florida.
Yeah.
I think the last time Clemson played Florida, to my recollection, was 1957.
Wow.
And, I know, yeah, I think Steve Spurrier was a quarterback. I'm not sure. I don't care. But you play people in your area. What's the school called? Swanee. People don't realize Georgia Tech and Swanee were the best two schools in the SEC at one point. And Georgia Tech would go past Alabama area to play anybody. They wouldn't play Mississippi State. They wouldn't play Ole Miss. we could make up a lot of stuff, and they wouldn't play. Then they used to play Vanderbilt on a regular. They wouldn't play Kentucky. We could go back to say a lot of schools on each other, but at least I was alive for the 3 that Clemson beat Ohio State in. That's what I tell them.
I watched them all.
Even if we lose, even if they win, and that team that won 11-1 that beat Ohio State, I think the only team they lost to was Georgia that year, 0-12. So I'm gonna be like, hey, we still own y'all. Y'all got to do a lot of catching up. Cause that's what Miami fans tell me when I say that. When they tell me that Clemson is a better program at this time, and they'll still say, hey, we got 5 and y'all got 3, so we got more.
Yeah, I would much rather be a Clemson fan right now than a Miami fan. Miami's won 55% of its games in the last 15 years. So Miami's had a rough go for a long time. This is going on for a long time now. This is not just Miami's been down for 3 or 4 years. This has been going on now for 15 years. Miami is they're Minnesota. Miami's who are they? They're South Carolina. Michigan? No. Miami's not anything close to Michigan. I started throwing out schools the other day that Miami is similar to in its performance in the last 15 years. And somebody said Notre Dame, and I said Notre Dame. Well, they just went to a playoff last year. Notre Dame went to a national championship game. Notre Dame's winning 10 games almost every year. Miami's nothing close to Notre Dame.
Well, yeah, I just saw that I had to reply because I'm out here making that money, and I said I don't have to call in because I couldn't type it the way I wanted to type it. But yeah, I'm still gonna bring that up. I just let y'all know, y'all find out a victory over if y'all do win. So that's what I'm gonna tell all the Ohio State fans. And it's like when I first started coming on your show, I think Clemson lost to Alabama. And you said, you were shocked that I called in. I mean, it's football. That's why we all love it. It's a combining people who normally wouldn't even talk to each other. And that's what makes the game so great. And, people take it too seriously. When I see these Miami fans on TV getting mad, talking about kill the kid or stuff like that, or a fan from another thing talking about cheaters and stuff like that. It's football, man. We're supposed to love it.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Have fun.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, those billions of dollars, Clemson, whoever else you want to talk about, Notre Dame, Alabama, they're not giving me no money.
Yeah, and just because somebody roots for Ohio State or Clemson or Alabama or a team that wins all the time doesn't make them smarter or a better person or cooler or anything else than somebody that roots for Kansas State or Wisconsin or Minnesota or TCU. That doesn't make them stupid or not as popular or not as cool. Just because I actually love it when I see people on here commenting and people that watch my videos and comment that like teams that are down and out. I love that they stick to their teams and are loyal and will watch, TCU or Iowa State or, fill in the blank, whoever it is, McD, who loves Maryland football. I love that. I think that's amazing. To see those people that root for bad teams and continue to stick with them year after year after year.
I got a friend, and he was a fan of Kentucky when High Monday was there. And what's the other guy named the big guy? He just passed recently.
Jared Lorenzen.
Board number 20. Yeah, he loves. You can't tell him nothing about Kentucky football that he don't know. He loves Kentucky football. And, he sticks it to South Carolina. Yeah, the year y'all beat Alabama, we whooped y'all. I was like, who knows that? I'm like, who knows Kentucky's that team? Randall Cobb was on that team.
Yeah.
I'm like, for real? I went to East Carolina. I think you said you went to Kent State, I believe, Miami, Ohio, something like that.
Who did?
I mean, you did.
Oh, I went to Kent State. Kent State. Yep.
Yeah. I think I went to East Carolina.
Okay.
Clemson, East Carolina has had blips of times in history that they've been 10-1. I can't tell you who they Peach Bowl 91. There's blips in history.
I'm drawing a blank, DeAndre, on the Cincinnati Bengals. Jeff Blake went to East Carolina.
Yeah. David Gerard.
Yep. Oh yeah. The Jags.
Yeah.
Sure.
Vontae Lynch, Jeff, Joseph, what's it called? I can't remember what his name Hardy, I believe. He was the number one pass catcher for the longest time in college football history.
Justin Hardy. And then just a couple of years ago, Zay Jones led the nation in receiving, and he's in the NFL right now, out of East Carolina.
So, you got blips in history. I love East Carolina football. I mean, I did a video on my channel and tell everybody why East Carolina struggles versus everybody else, because they don't have the facilities. That's a dying part of the state. Carolina State is supported by the pig farmers. Carolina is supported by lawyers, doctors, everything. They got a medical school at East Carolina, but they don't got a law school or a pharmacy school like Carolina got. And you got people like Michael Jordan and Julius Pepper pushing money through there. Carolina doesn't have that. But I bet you their football history is just as good or better than North Carolina's is.
DeAndre, I think we're losing viewers right now talking about the law school.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Later, but I just want to respond to those Ohio State fans.
Thanks, DeAndre.
So, yes, sir.
21-0, right? That's what it was. 21, 31. Yeah. All right. Very good. Robert, yes, I got your email. May take me about 4 days to read it, but thank you for the email. All right. Robert's got some kind of point system that I'm going to have to look at during the off season. Hopefully it's not buried by about 512 emails by then. How many national titles do the Georgia Bulldogs have? I think it's 1980. That's it. Herschel Walker. Who did Georgia beat in the Sugar Bowl that year? And who was coaching that team? Also, thinking back to the Clemson Ohio State game of 1978, my favorite college football player of all time played in that game. Nothing new. Thank you so much. Nothing new. Yes, we need more likes. So this is what happens. This is how I understand it. I don't know this, but this is what I hear, is that videos that receive a lot of views are obviously then put into more and more traffic, because YouTube thinks, okay, well, this video, a lot of people like this video. A lot of people are watching this video. So the views mean a lot, first and foremost. So a lot of people are watching it. Therefore, we're going to give it the opportunity for more people to watch it. But also, a lot of people are telling us that they like this video. Therefore, that combination pushes the video into the suggested videos. So let's say you watch a lot of home repair videos. You watch a ton of home repair videos. Well, YouTube is searching for more and more home repair videos for you to watch. Or if there's a particular home repair video that you watch, even if you've already seen that home repair video 18 times, YouTube knows, hey, he'll watch it again. So we'll serve it back up, and it's in the suggested videos, even though you've already watched that video 18 times. I see tons of videos suggested for me in YouTube that I'm like, I've seen it. Well, I just keep watching them because I like them. So I'll watch them again. So YouTube doesn't care. We'll throw it right back at you. But you have proven to be a consumer of home repair videos. Therefore, YouTube just keeps throwing them your way. Well, if you watch college football talk on a regular basis, then and you type in college football talk, or it's interesting to see, because I've had people educate me on this, what people are typing in to find me. And I heard from a couple of big YouTubers, like with millions of subscribers, that it's actually rare for somebody at my size, not my size 5'11", my size of channel, that actually the number one search term that people are looking me up is actually Mark Rogers TV. So people are actually going to YouTube looking up Mark Rogers TV. So that's a good thing, because usually somebody finds a channel like mine by running into it, not purposefully, just looking up college football debate, college football playoffs, college football talk, college football arguments, college football, whatever. So the deal is, please like the videos. If you want to donate about 3 minutes of your time after you get done watching right here, go through as many videos as you can and just go like. Even if you don't agree with me, if you like what we're doing here, please like the videos. Thank you. Because once you get into the suggested videos, you've got it made in regards to that particular video gaining views. And then we all know that that one video will most likely cause more people to then watch other videos on the channel, because once they get into the suggested videos and like they catch one of my videos there, then they're watching the video and they're on my channel. So then they see what other videos I've got available, and it's a domino effect. Bryden Phillips, sorry, I did not post the phone number. It's 860-325-3687. I will post it in just a second. Line jumper, Ohio State offensive and defensive lines going to be a handful for Clemson, just as Clemson wideouts are going to be a handful for the Buckeyes. So, Bryden, I know that you posted that comment a long time ago because it's difficult for me to catch up to the comments. There is the number, 860-325-3687, and I will remind you that the Super Chat is on. I will post a video. It'll probably come after the regular season or after the postseason. We are done with the regular season in college football. After the postseason, in which I'm going to list, I would ask that you watch this video. I will try to be as brief as possible, but I would ask that you watch this video in which I give you all the ways in which you can help us, in ways that you can support the channel. And it's not monetarily. There's going to be a number of ways there in which you can help us build the channel. I cannot in any way do it justice in describing how much better this channel would be if I was able to do this all the time. If I could do this all the time, then it's over. Then it's all over. If I didn't have 50 hours invested somewhere else, forget it. All right. Where are we? I don't know where we are. Yeah, Cheryl, I don't know either. So, Bryden, I gave you the phone number, 860-325-3687. It's going to be one of my aims after the end of the regular. I keep saying the regular season. After the season, after the postseason, I show you this. I just, you guys don't care about this, but I'm going to show it to you again. So I got all this cable work right here, and I got a mixer to do the phone calls. Yeah, it's not coming. To do the phone calls the right way. Got a nice mixer there, but we have not been able to figure out how to hook it up correctly to get the phone calls through the board, through the system, and so I can actually don't have to hold a phone up to the mic. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Prince is on the line. Prince, 6'1". Prince has made some of the nicest comments to me concerning our show here. I actually, Prince, you probably don't know this, but one night you got on here. Maybe you'd had a few too many, but you just went on just a spiel of compliments concerning the channel. And I just had to take that. I spliced it up and I put it on Facebook. I put it on my Facebook. JT Thompson, good to see you. 5-star caller. That must have been DeAndre. And we had DeAndre and we had somebody else call tonight. We had Michael call tonight. Uh-oh. I lost where we are. Marcus. Yes, Marcus, this helps support the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Marcus, thank you for the contribution. And again, here's a guy contributing via the super chat. And guess what? I have never heard from Marcus before. I do not recognize that name from any comments, whether it be in the live chat or to any videos, ever. Marcus comes out of nowhere, gives up about a third of a coffee. If you could give up one coffee a month, that would be phenomenal. Marcus Escobar, left-handed style. It's not very good, but it's all I got from the lefty side. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I would love to know how long you've been watching and who you root for. Interesting note here, nothing new, where you say Michigan is usually number one according to wins. Alabama isn't number one there. So there was an interesting calculation that someone made, and I saw it on Twitter about 4 weeks left in the regular season, in which they calculated that if Ohio State ran the table, which they did, and beat Michigan, which they did, that they would overtake Michigan as the team with the best winning percentage in the history of college football. So I don't know that that's official, but I verified it based on the source, and it was a credible source, that Ohio State has the best winning percentage in the history of college football. Michigan still has the most wins, but they are looking over their shoulder. You see that? No, it goes right below. Matthew, how do you feel about that? You happy? So let's also keep in mind that you can help me by following me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Mark Rogers TV. Everything's Mark Rogers TV. Just go to Twitter, go to Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Mark Rogers TV, and also on Facebook. Give me a like on Facebook. That's an easy thing to do. Then you don't need to bother me anymore, or I won't bother you. Just go to Facebook and give me a like there. Mark Rogers TV. We have been consistent with the branding, although we're moving in that voice of college football. That's what we're pushing your way, the voice of college football. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Okay, I love when people make statements like this. Bo Weevil, national championships before 1980 are really irrelevant. There's something magical about the year 1980, I suppose. What happened in 1980 that the 1980 national championship counts, but the 1979 one, that one doesn't count. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hi, this is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you ever heard of Howard Stern playing football with these small teams.
Fortunately, we didn't hear that because we had an idea that Jeff there was a moron. He sounded like one, the voice did, and then the words backed it up. Thanks, Jeff. Give me a like. We're talking about Carlos Snow in the chat. And Bo Weevil, I'm trying to get your point. I know that you're basically saying that the longer, further we go back, because they started wearing, leather helmets and all of that, that they shouldn't count as much. But where do you draw the line? Just picking a year out of thin air doesn't solve the issue, doesn't prove anything. It's not a delineation. There is only one factor that makes any time. I'm reading a comment by Matthew, who doesn't like my hair. I really, you would be surprised how much time I spent on this hair. It's like 12 seconds. It just takes boom. Boom. That's all it takes. Okay. But you can't just pull a year out of thin air and say that's the delineation. There's actually only one factor that should be considered to a certain extent in differentiating, okay, these national championships should be less considered, less important in shaping college football history. And I'll have you mull on that a little bit. Robert is letting us know that the 1928 Yellow Jackets won the national championship, as did the 1990 Yellow Jackets, and that was a bit. It's one of many national championships that could be disputed. Now, most of you, and I find this out all the time, that actually the more people did. Wait a minute. Do we have like breaking news here? I'm going to read this here real quick. This would be very sad, even though I don't necessarily am a big fan of this person. I was going to say something else. I'm going to look it up right now. So I started a series last off season, and I'm getting schizophrenic. I'm starting to talk. I'm on like 4 different conversations at the same time. So the first thing I was going to say, number one, that last off season, because there's an opportunity to dispute national championships. We all know that. If you love college football, if you watch it, if you know what's going on historically, you know that national championships, they are not objective. They can be disputed. So therefore, I wanted to do a series in which I went year by year, and I started this where I went year by year. Okay. I thought I saw something on the live chat, but apparently I did not. Okay. All right. Sorry to hold up the show there. Let me get back on my train of thought. Number one, that I would love to do a series, and I started this last off season to go through the entirety of college football history, season by season by season, and start with 2018 and basically say, this is what happened, but this is what happened But let's understand, because of the system, these are the teams that were not given the opportunity. These were not the teams that could have been given an opportunity to win the national championship. So, for example, in 2014, we'll use that as an example. Ohio State won the national championship fair and square in the playoff. But let's understand that TCU and Baylor could have been given opportunities to win the national championship, and they were not afforded that opportunity, if you follow me on that path. In 2011, Alabama and LSU competed in the BCS championship game, but Oklahoma State, with only one loss, like Alabama, based on a vote, based on a computer system, the combination of both, was not given the opportunity. And I could go through the entirety of college football from 2018 all the way back, season by season, and outline those schools that were not given the opportunity in that particular season to win a national championship. So national championships are not the end-all, be-all. They are not the end-all, be-all. They can be disputed. I think we need to clear something up here. And this shouldn't be too difficult to do. Yeah, we'll take a few people off here quickly. I've never seen these people before, and apparently they should be have their rights taken away. Okay, very good. So I was excited to do that, and DeAndre, our caller twice tonight, was excited for me to do it, and I got back about 5 years, and people weren't watching the video, so just took too much research to do that. But to arbitrarily pick out a year and say, everything before that shouldn't count, doesn't make any sense. Nothing new. Thank you so much for the contribution. And you know what? Nothing new. What I've noticed about this individual in particular is that a few times I've disputed some things that he has said, but he didn't take offense to that because I did it in a respectful way. I challenged the point that he was making. That's what we do here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I want to hear your opinion, your perspective. I'm going to shoot it down. If you're factually incorrect, I will shoot it down and let you know. Because this happens all the time. People make comments in the comments section, and I'm like, well, that never happened. That's incorrect. So first of all, we need to be correct factually, and then we need to make sense. Some things just don't make any sense. And it's good to know that we're clearing up who and who is not alive right now. So that is something that that where Nothing New has made some claims and made some opinions on some points, and I've challenged him, and I assume it's a him. I've challenged them, and he has not made any type of taking offense to that, and I think that's awesome because that's why we're here. I don't mind you guys challenging me in my opinion. It's my opinion. I think it's rather informed and logical, but it's not perfect. It's not infallible. So we will debate and discuss it. That's what we do here. And so Nothing New, thank you so much for the contribution. I greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. And, you know, I got to work early tomorrow, but we're going to keep going here. JJ, the Fiesta Bowl game is going to be close or a blowout? That's pretty poignant, JJ. Either close or a blowout. Some of you have needed to comment in previous videos and live streams that I need moderators. Is that really the word for it? Maybe they're kind of you would kind of be oh boy, you would be here. Are you really a moderator? Regardless, people to police the live chat. And if you would like to write me at markrogerstv at gmail, then we could figure out how to do that. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine, McD. How's it going tonight?
Sorry, pretty good. Sorry for not showing up to the live stream until 86 minutes in. I was hanging out with friends, family, and just got back home and saw that you're doing a live stream. So I thought I'll call in and wish you a Merry Christmas. I do have
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. But I do have one question regarding the playoff games.
Okay.
Playoff games.
Sure.
Yeah. With the Clemson and Ohio State game.
Yes.
Do you actually think it's going to be a close game? Because a lot of people are saying it's going to be a close game, but every college football game except the Georgia, Oklahoma game and one other one, I think I want to say maybe the Alabama Ohio State game were blowout. So
you are right about that. You're right.
So do you think?
Yeah. So we've had think about it. We've had 5 years of playoffs. Therefore, we've had 10 semifinal games. And Ohio State, Alabama, close 42-35. And, of course, the overtime game at the Rose Bowl, Oklahoma, Georgia. Last year, we had 2 blowouts in the semifinals. And, yes, all the other games were blowouts. They were either just, like, seriously, like, horrible blowouts, or they got out of hand in the second half. Like, in 2015, Clemson, Oklahoma was a 1-point game at half, and then Clemson blew them out in the second half. Yes, you're right. Those are only 2 out of 10 semifinal games that have been close. So, and let's understand that most of the point spreads were not that close either in most of those games. Oregon was a double-digit favorite against Florida State. They blew them out by 39. Alabama was a double-digit favorite against Michigan State. They blew them out. Alabama was a double-digit favorite against Washington. They blew them out. And Oklahoma. Yep.
Well, I think that Washington. Well, actually, no, that's 17. Never mind. I was going to say that the Washington Alabama game was close. So that was 24-7. I thought that was 24-10.
It wasn't horrible.
It wasn't. It was kind of like a beatdown more than anything.
Washington scored on the first drive of the game. Dante Pettis scored a touchdown the first drive of the game, and then they couldn't do anything. Actually, the Washington defense played a really good game. Alabama had a pick 6 in that game, and Washington's defense consistently had to hold down Alabama. They played a great defensive game, and it was 17-7 into like the fourth quarter. Maybe late third quarter. It was, but you never had the thought that Alabama was challenged. No, they were clearly the better team. Yeah.
Because a lot of people are saying this game is going to be close, and it's making me nervous. I think it could be a blowout because it's just making me nervous. I picked it a close game, but all these people are saying it's going to be close with every playoff game, as I said, except the Georgia-Oklahoma game and the Alabama-Ohio State game. It's really making me nervous. Because I think the LSU-Oklahoma game, I think Oklahoma will be competitive with them, but I think LSU at the end probably beats them by 14 to 17 points. But this has a feeling like the Alabama-Clemson game last year. It's going to be competitive, kind of close, but Alabama's going to pull it off at the end. And a lot of people are saying that Clemson's going to win this game, and it's really making me nervous. I can see Ohio State maybe getting in there, blowing them out. What
are you nervous about? What, you're a Maryland fan. What do you have, like $1,000 on Clemson or something? What do you?
I just want Ohio State to lose.
What, you don't root for the Big Ten as a Maryland fan? No.
No, I could care less about these people I vote for root for the SEC, despite them being Georgia fans.
Yeah.
And then I'm just not about that. I think you should only root for your team. I mean, some of these, for example, in the SEC, Alabama fans rooting for Auburn.
Sure.
And when they're going to play Minnesota, some of these SEC
Sure.
homers are Alabama
Yep.
fans. I mean, why would you do that?
Because they root for their conference. I saw a number of Ohio State fans comment recently that they're rooting for Michigan.
If I was an Ohio State fan, I wouldn't be rooting for Michigan. I would be hoping Michigan loses.
So why do you hate Ohio State so much that you're rooting against them? They play in your division.
They just annoy me. I mean, it's just.
And you still watch my show.
I like your show, Mark. I don't watch the Ohio State live, though. I'll tell you that. I don't care what you say. They're not going to change their mind about Ohio State. I mean, I think Ohio State. I've never really liked them. Even back when Maryland was in the ACC, I never really liked Ohio State.
Don't like Ohio State people. How much time have you spent in the Great Buckeye State?
Well, I don't like Ohio State people. I just don't like the team. I just think that. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Ohio State fans. I've been in the Buckeye State twice, by the way.
Okay.
But it was mostly just driving through. I spent one night in the Buckeye State. Thunderstorm a lot. We had this place near Columbus, so it's pretty flat and high. I'll say that. But I just really hope Ohio State loses. I'm rooting for Clemson. So that's why I'm getting nervous, because I just do not like Ohio State. I don't like Ohio State. I don't like Michigan. I don't like Duke. I don't like North Carolina. And I'm fair to these teams, though. But I'm fair. I'll admit, Ohio State is the second best team in the country. I think they're better than Clemson. But I think Clemson's going to beat them, because I think people are doubting Clemson. Okay. Because Dad was making this whole storyline or whatever. But,
see, what you just said, McD, doesn't seem to make sense, but it makes sense. So people think that just because you make a prediction that a certain team will win, the best team doesn't always win. They usually win. They win a great majority of the time. But I may do that this off season leading into next season when I make my team by team predictions, and I will give percentages of the probabilities that each team will win their, take a certain team and run through their schedule, and I will give a percentage probability that they will win that game, but then I'll say that they may lose this particular game. Maybe they got an 80% chance of winning that game, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the game. Clemson was a better team than Pitt in 2016, but they lost the game head-to-head, but they were better.
And back then when they lost to Pitt, I was not to me, there's certain teams like in the ACC, and I'm sure it's in every conference, but especially in the ACC, Pitt, Duke, for example, they're just going to play everybody tough and see what happens. They'll win 6-7 games every year, just about every year, and they'll just play everybody tough and see what happens. I mean, that's sort of like the Pac-12 formula to a lesser degree, because that's what Washington, that's how they made the playoffs. When they made the playoffs, so I like that method. That's what I hope my Terps do, actually. Just become a tough physical team and see what happens. Maybe pull off an upset here and there, win 6-7 games, 8 games every year. But I just want to give my 2 cents about this Clemson-Ohio State game. I think Clemson's going to win, but it's making me nervous because a lot of people are picking Clemson, and these college football playoff games tend to be blowouts. So if Clemson, if they turn over the ball early in the game, and Ohio State's up early 7-0. It's going to really make me nervous. So,
well, stop listening. Stop listening to people, McD. Do you know how much influence people have over my predictions? Zero.
I mean, I'm not changing my prediction or anything. I'm just getting nervous.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's all I have for you tonight, Mark. I'm sure you'll be live after the college football playoff game.
Absolutely. Even though it was quite amusing, McD, it was quite amusing this week. Somebody accused me and said that I would be crying in a corner and would refuse to come on live if Ohio State lost.
I saw that. I saw that.
Now, has this ever happened before?
And that's why I like you and Lou and Pigskin Pete and everybody, because you guys don't hide after your team loses.
This has never happened before. And number two, I guarantee that if somebody did not know that I'm an Ohio State fan and would come on to watch me after they would lose a big game, they would have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, my church was 3-9, and I came here after every loss.
Of course. Yes.
I'm making excuses and criticizing the you-know-what out of them. So I don't understand, like, the whole hiding thing. I think it's ridiculous, but unfortunately, that's how some people are built. But, Mark, that's all I have for you. I'm sure you want to get off because you've been on for an hour 40 now. Thanks for taking my call, and go Terps. We'll make our bowl game next season.
Thanks, McD. Appreciate it. Somebody asked there, and I posted the comment on the screen. Somebody wanted to, I guess they were asking me to list the 8 greatest programs in history of college football. I lost track of that comment. So the 8 top programs in history. Who's the top 8 programs of all time? Okay. Without verifying with research, but I've certainly thought about this and looked at numbers. I'm a numbers geek. Not in order. I'm not going to give you an order. Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, USC. The 8th one's tough. Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, USC. It's between Nebraska and Penn State. Tied for 8. I'd have to really grind it down. There you go. Where are we here? Cheryl, yes. Cheryl's on the live streams all the time. She provides all sorts of encouragement for us. Talking to you knuckleheads in the live chat. Man, Cheryl, she puts up with a lot. And she has to listen to me. Maybe she keeps the sound down so she doesn't have to listen to me. No. It's very nice of Cheryl to show up and support me on a regular basis. Even as a Buckeyes fan, she shows up in the Miami live streams and Florida State. And keep in mind that Ohio State is coming your way. I need to get this in the notifications. We are doing our Ohio State live tomorrow night. It's no. I'm sorry. That's Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Ohio State live will be this Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Yes. Tomorrow night, I am speaking with Clemson fans. Listen up. Bobby Durkins. That will not be live, so look out for that video. And also Pat Murphy of Bucknuts talking Ohio State football. And I will be on here probably not directly after the Miami game because it will be approximately 7:30, but not long after the Miami game's over. I will be live right here tomorrow night to talk the Miami-Louisiana Tech game. I will watch the entire game. Well, see, this is going to be kind of difficult. So here's the deal. Miami and Louisiana Tech play at 4 Eastern. I will get home from work about 6:30 Eastern. I will be DVRing the game, but I've got to record at 7 and 7:30. Therefore, that means I need to watch the game so I can comment. Well, you know what? I can comment. I can let you guys comment. I will not watch the game. I will not be able to initially watch the game. I will just have to come on and allow you guys to comment. And I know you've got other Miami shows to go watch, which is fine. That's great. Go do it. But I want to provide that opportunity for everyone to talk Miami football and Louisiana Tech football, of course. We're the voice of college football, but I think you know where I'm going, that we've got more Miami supporters here than Louisiana Tech. I think that number, that fan base here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, is surging. The Louisiana Tech fan base is surging here. I don't think there's any question about that, but it's not quite at that level. That's what we'll do. I've got to record at 7 and 7:30. So that means about close to 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll go live to talk Louisiana Tech and Miami, and also whatever else you guys want to talk about. Then I will have to go back and watch the game, and then I'll give my instant, not so instant analysis of the Independence Bowl. And then by that time, it's going to be late at night, and I'll have to watch Pitt in Eastern Michigan because I'm trying to watch all the Power 5 bowl games. And that's not a knock on the group of 5, but I didn't get a chance to watch all of those games. I watched a lot of them. I really enjoyed the BYU-Hawaii game last night. I thought that was exceptional. Loved it. And I posted an instant analysis at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's what we're going to do. I've got records at 7 and 7:30. Then we're going to go live here at approximately 7:45 to 8 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to put this in the notification so you've got it right there. We're going to talk Miami football and Louisiana Tech live at before 8 o'clock at the latest. And then I'm going to go back, watch the game. I'm going to post instant analysis. Then I'm going to watch Pitt and Eastern Michigan and post instant analysis. That's going to be about 3 hours after the game's over. And if you didn't get all that, if you're a subscriber, then you're going to get the notification, and I'm going to lay that all out. Nothing new. We appreciate it. Thank you for the contribution. And yes, don't forget to hit the like button. And for everybody that encourages and reminds people to do that, thank you so much. To West. James, I got to say, I grew up in Ohio, and I don't even know where 2 West is. I have no idea. Seth, understand that not everything you read on Wikipedia is accurate. So I thought it was rather funny. After one of the big rivalry games, I can't remember which one, somebody made a joke about who owns who. This was after maybe Ohio State, Michigan, and they actually went into Wikipedia, somebody who had rights, and they changed the name of that particular state's governor to the name of the football coach of the competing team. I forget who it was. So not everything you read on Wikipedia is credible. It still should be a source. Most of it is. But I think you believe and understand you should, Seth, what my point is about segregation and about the desegregation of the sport. Zach believes it's dumb to root for another team in your conference. You're competing and recruiting against them. Why would you want them to be successful? I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I understand both sides of it. Some people say, I'm an Illinois fan and I'm going to root for everybody in the Big Ten. Great, do it. Other people say, I'm an Illinois fan and I hate Iowa and Minnesota and Indiana and Northwestern, and I would never root for them because they're our rivals and I hate them. Fine. Matthew, I see nothing new on a lot of shows. I was making some kind of comment there. J. Jobs, you were right. John, my Trojans have an asterisk for the 2004 title. $28 all day. I agree. I won't root for Texas because they're more of a nuisance in recruiting and competition. However, I don't mind seeing Baylor win bowl games. There was an inaccurate statement made by somebody about there not being split national championships after 1980. Okay, there were. 1990, 91. There should have been one in 94 because we had two undefeated teams in Penn State and Nebraska. So there should have been. And 97. Wouldn't that be funny? Tabardine. Mark, you do know Clemson is going to win 49-17. I guess now I do know. Are these the 8? Okay. I don't know. Miami. Seth is on this, isn't he? Besides, there were lots of black college football athletes going back to the late 1800s. Yeah, they didn't play against other teams. Okay, Robert, I have explained. Robert, I love your comments. I appreciate you jumping in here to comment. But we don't want a 6-team playoff. It's not fair. I explained this the other night, why it made absolutely no sense. JJ, yes. So 1 o'clock on Friday. Thank you, Cheryl. 1 o'clock on Friday, Ohio State Live, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That is the time slot that we could find for our guests because they will all be out at the playoff game. I've got previews coming up here in the next few days with Clemson, Ohio State, and Georgia in particular, Alabama and Auburn. So we're going to hit those bowl games before they take the field against Michigan and Minnesota. We are going to do our next Florida State Seminoles live show after the bowl game. So directly after the bowl game on New Year's Eve, Florida State, Arizona State, we're doing our Florida State Seminoles live right after the game. And again, this all goes in the notifications. Thanks, Jay Jobs. Games tomorrow. You got the Independence Bowl with Miami and Louisiana Tech at 4 Eastern. You've got the 8 o'clock game with Eastern Michigan and Pitt. The SEC will go undefeated in bowl games. If Ohio State runs for 200 plus yards, can you see a scenario where Clemson wins? Well, sure, I can. It's possible. The more that Ohio State's able to run the football, obviously they're gaining yardage, they're running the clock, they're moving the ball, they're keeping Clemson on the sideline offensively. There's a number of things that go right when you can run the ball, but that doesn't speak to turnovers. First and foremost, you could run for 200 yards and still lose the game 38-35. Ohio State could run for 200 yards. They averaged 272 per game. Okay. All right, Seth. Thank you, Jay Jobs. I'm not getting into this battle tonight. Thomas asking, have you picked up the new book, This is the Big Ten? I have not. Sounds like somebody should have purchased that for me for Christmas. I did get some nice Christmas presents. Where are they? Oh, shoot. Get myself a nice. I'll have to wear this sometime soon. I'll wear that. Got that. And I got some gift cards here. Some gift cards. A few gift cards there. A couple different ones there. Yeah, got those for Christmas. And I also received got a nice watch here. So this was nice. Got a nice watch for Christmas. All right, those are the Christmas presents. So thank you. Yes, I'll have to check out that book. I'm the kind of guy that Matthew, thank you so much for hitting the like button 3 times. I'm the guy that has like a zillion books that I could possibly read and that are backed up on my reading list. So I like to read. Like some people don't like to read. I don't like to read a lot. Like I read 7 pages. Like before I go to bed, I'll pick out something to read and I'll read like 7 pages and then I'm done. I can't read like 75 pages at once. So it takes me a long time. And there are all sorts of inspirational books and others that I do most of my focusing on reading those types of books and that type of material in my downtime rather than reading more about college football. But so I typically don't do that. Thomas Lee, thank you so much. That's an amazing statement. I'll put it on the screen as soon as I get to it, Thomas. Thank you so much. We will get to that in just a second. Thank you so much for the contribution. That's amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much. All right, Seth. We'll get to this. This is a very important topic, Seth, but I cannot tackle this tonight. And people continue to make stupid comments, and so I'll just have to. So I put a number of people in timeout because they were making stupid comments and for no reason. And now I've just had to block them because they've come back. So I put them in timeout. I gave them time to think about it, but they continue to be morons and came back. And so then I am now blocking them. All right. Mark, do you think Miami even cares about this bowl game? This line is steamed all the way down from a 10.5 to 6.5. Huge move. What gives? Well, Miami's not playing. A number of its best players have chosen to sit out. Jeff Thomas, Jonathan Garvin, DJ Dallas. I previewed the game. A ton of players. Navon Donaldson, probably their best offensive lineman, not playing in the game. There are rumors that Trajan Bandy, their best cornerback, will not play in the game, although that's not been made official, and maybe it won't be. So that's why that's gone down. Plus, Louisiana Tech has acquitted itself pretty well against. They're 9-3 in the Conference USA. Miami's a 6-6 ACC team. We've seen a lot of games between the ACC lower tier teams in recent years in bowl play against very good group of 5 teams. Now, typically those group of 5 teams have been from the American Conference, like Temple against Duke last year, like Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, like Memphis and Wake. Was that last year's game? Anyway, Wake has played Memphis and Temple recently in bowl games, and Duke and Temple played recently. So there have been a lot of American conference games against the ACC, and they've all been very close. Very close. Oh, 2 West is up there. Gotcha. I gotcha. It's up there. So I have been on 2 West. It's just not something that I frequented often. Oh, somebody had a good comment in here. Hang on just a second. Where'd that go? J Jobs. Mark, please say something special about Ed Ashkoff. We were having a discussion at work tonight about Ed Ashkoff and the tragedy of this situation in which this young man, only 34 years old, engaged and just a bright, talented man, lost his life after a very quick attack by pneumonia. It's very sad, very talented man. Very, very talented writer. I did not know him personally. I was asking around to find out if anyone that I knew there at work knew him personally, and there was no one who did. He was obviously not there on campus in Bristol on a regular basis, as far as I know. But yeah, it's just a very sad set of events. I think anytime anyone passes away, we gain a greater appreciation for life and why we're here. One of the reasons why we're here is to build relationships with people and encourage people and be a help and a support to people and to tell people how much we love and appreciate them. So by all accounts, Ed Ashkoff was a very talented man, and somebody who was spoken of very highly by the people that knew him. I am ridding the chat of all of the pathetic comments about people's demise. All right. William, agree, Mark. 2015 Buckeyes team, best team to be left out of the playoffs. Yes. Yeah. That was the best team in the country that year. The most talented team. They did not play up to par. They didn't play at their best. But the last 2 games of the season against Michigan and Notre Dame, they kicked it into gear, which I found pretty impressive because after they lost to Michigan State and that knocked them out of the playoff, I thought that they would just kind of cave in and go looking for the NFL draft. And they pulled together and they manhandled Michigan. And they, for the most part, manhandled Notre Dame. They gave up a few big plays, but besides that, Joey Bosa got kicked out of that game early. So they didn't have their best player on defense, and they still beat Notre Dame. It was 44-28. It wasn't that close. That's the best team. Think about this. So we have these conversations on here frequently when we talk about college football history, and I try to put things into context, meaning that it's not just all about they finished number 1, they finished number 2. Let's move on to the next year, so they must have been better than them. A lot of things had to break right or break against a team. There's a lot of things to know and put into play when telling the story of any particular college football season. So for this season in particular, keep this in mind. Ohio State missed the playoffs. They were the consensus number one team, did not play well, but won their games, the first 10 games of the season, until they ran into a very game bunch of Michigan State Spartans in Columbus and lost 17-14 on the final play of the game. Okay, fair and square, lost the game. Michigan State won the Big Ten. Even though Michigan State, consider this, lost to a 5-7 Nebraska team, and Michigan State would not have won the Big Ten had the Michigan punter that caught the ball, if you're following me on the game at the Big House, in which Michigan blew the game in the final seconds to Michigan State. So Michigan's beating Michigan State. All they have to do is not just punt the ball. They don't even have to punt the ball. The punter just has to catch the ball and secure it. He could have just fallen on the ball. But no, he spun around and he threw it up in the air. Why do kickers do this? There's a history of kickers doing this, just throwing the ball up in the air. And Michigan State caught it, forget the kid's name, caught it, ran it for a touchdown. Again, if Michigan would have just fallen on the ball, the game was over. They didn't need to advance the ball. They could have even had Michigan State recover it on their knees. The game would have been over. But instead, Michigan State ran it for a touchdown. That game allowed Michigan State to go to the playoff and kept Ohio State out of the playoff, because had Michigan State lost that game to Michigan, as they should have, it was gifted to them, they would have had 2 losses in the Big Ten, and Ohio State would have had 1 loss, and Ohio State, despite losing to Michigan State, would have won the Big Ten championship against Iowa. I am very confident in saying that, and would have gone to the playoff. So while that scenario that was crazy, historically crazy, to the point where I'm making a list of my top 10 games of the decade, and that'll be a video that will be coming out, and that's one of them. While that was going on and kicked Ohio State out of the playoff, meanwhile in the SEC, Ole Miss beat Alabama. So Ole Miss was the Michigan State of the SEC. They beat Alabama, and Alabama being the Ohio State of the SEC. Play along with me. But instead of Ole Miss winning out after they beat Alabama and going to Atlanta in the SEC championship game and keeping Alabama home, in which they would have missed the playoff, Ole Miss was playing Arkansas. Game's in overtime. Ole Miss is winning the game. It's the final possession. They had scored in overtime. Arkansas had the ball and needed to score to keep the game going. Arkansas had a 4th and 20. Ball was thrown to Hunter Henry, catches the ball. He knows that if he falls out of bounds, that the game's over. He caught like a 10-yard pass. It was like 4th and 20. Catches the ball, just whips it over his head blindly. Alex Collins gets the ball in a mad scramble, runs for a first down. Arkansas scores, gets the 2-point conversion, beats Ole Miss 53-52, knocks Ole Miss out of the SEC championship game, sends Alabama to the SEC championship game. That is the difference between Ohio State going to the Big Ten title game and the playoff, and Alabama not going to the SEC championship game in the playoff. So these situations aren't always under the team's control. Sometimes teams get fortunate. Sure, they have to win their games and be in the right place at the right time, but sometimes they get fortunate by other teams' goofy plays and mistakes, or they're unfortunate. So these are the kind of things we put in context here. Because it's not all about just, oh, well, in 2015, Alabama, Michigan State, Clemson, and Oklahoma went to the playoff. They must be the 4 best teams. Not necessarily. And that is the type scenario I was outlining when I was going year by year by year back through history last off season, but the videos were not being watched by enough people. But I would love to do that. Okay. And yeah, so 137. Sports Chat 503. My friends out there at Sports Chat 503, Merry Christmas to you as well. Would love to get you back on to talk Oregon football and the Rose Bowl. All right. I think they are lackluster. Matthew doesn't like the bowl matchups. I'm not going to get into that right now. And this is what's amazing. Okay, before I get to that, the Wholesome One, good to see you. And because I bring these comments onto the live stream a little bit late, like so it's right now 1:38. So this was 15 minutes ago. So hopefully the Wholesome One's still with us. At face value, could you see it being the best idea for my Canes to finally play long ball and give Manny Diaz 6 to 8 years to get it right instead of firing every coach after 4 seasons? Okay, whoa. Well, let's see what he's got for us next year. I would not sign him to a long-term contract. I would want to see what's going to happen next year. I've not dissected the Miami schedule, but knowing the state of the ACC and that Miami plays, I believe, is next year Michigan State. That'll be a toss-up. They actually should beat Michigan State. That this team needs to go like 9-3 next year in that division. And they'll play Florida State, of course, in the other division, and whoever the round robin is that they played Louisville this year. They played Syracuse the year before. So whoever they play, Boston College, well, they already played Boston College recently. It's probably somebody like, maybe they got Clemson coming up. But regardless, they've got to win 8 or 9 games next year. But I would not give him a long-term contract until I would see that he can handle this job. All right, there's Thomas Lee. Thank you so much. That's an amazing contribution and statement right there from Thomas Lee. I will read the book. Let me make sure, because what happens so much is I've got so much on my mind, so much to think about, and miss so many things, is that I need to make note of this so I actually go get that book, because you have specifically given that gift for me to get that book, Thomas. So thank you so much for that. And it's called, what's it called? Can you give that to me? Something about the Big Ten. I'll find it. I'll figure it out when I look it up. Thank you so much. It's very nice of you. Absolutely, Robert. Yes. Thomas Lee is the real MVP. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone backing up Thomas on that. That's very nice of everyone to give him a pat on the back. It's very nice of all of you. So what I try to convey in all this is that, so if you just want to come in and watch a video or two and then take off, that's great. But many of you see the vision that we've got here for the channel and what we are trying to do, what we will do with your help. So I'm not doing anything different right now than I was doing 5 years ago. I'm just talking to more people thanks to you. So you're doing, what you're doing is making the impact, not me. I'm just still talking about college football, but you're making the impact to get the videos out there, get them watched and liked and out in social media and doing all the good things that help us. So what I try to convey when I emphasize or I put up a banner that says Super Chat, the Super Chat's on, that's just one way to contribute. But you can contribute in so many other ways. So I in no way want anyone to feel any pressure concerning the Super Chat. It's just one way you can contribute. You can contribute in so many ways. Just like the videos and comment and engage with people and tell people out there that love college football, because you folks talk to people on social media, you talk to people in person that I'll never get a chance to talk to. So think of me once in a while and say, man, I know you're a big Oklahoma fan. Have you ever watched Mark Riders TV, the voice of college football? James. Now that's what I'm talking about. Oh, Nautica. Nautica. Is that the I didn't notice that, James. My daughter selected that. Yeah. There you go. I had no idea. I do not follow brands. Had no idea. Yes, I would never call myself a historian. I wouldn't give myself that type of elevated view, but I'm close. Piece of cherry pie. Don't want to lose to Memphis. Robert, he's got his point system for the playoff. I got to tell you, Robert, I will read it. We'll go through it. We'll get to it at some point, but I'm not going to like the 6 teams. I've explained why 6 teams doesn't work. I'm sorry, Robert. It doesn't work. This is simply the deal with 6 teams. Cheryl, I'm sorry. You obviously do some amazing work in your field, in your industry. So thank you for your contribution in that very difficult and very important place where you do your work and you exercise your gifts. Thank you. My point was going to be I'm off track now. I don't remember what I was talking about. Do we think Miami's got a chance of winning? Darren, I haven't heard from you in a long time. What were we talking about prior to that? I forget. Oh, well. Nebraska could have won 5 straight national championships, but they only won 3 in 5 years. I can paint the pictures. (1998, 2015) may be the best Ohio State teams of all time. Yes, Michigan State, both times. Block punt, Sparty won. And ironically, when I saw that play, I laughed because it was just funny that Michigan lost on that kind of play. I just thought it was hilarious. But just a few weeks later, that is the Ohio State fans laughing at Michigan at that point, not understanding this is going to be the play that's going to knock us out of the college football playoffs. Mark, in the 2015 season in the Big Ten, who are the 2 best teams in the conference before the conference championship game? I would have enjoyed a rematch with Michigan State in 2015 in the college conference championship game. Well, record-wise, the 2 best teams were Iowa and then either Michigan State and Ohio State because they both were 7-1 and 11-1 in the overall record. Iowa was undefeated. Who were the 2 best teams? Well, Ohio State was the most talented team. It wasn't even close. They would not have lost 38-0 in a playoff game. Actually, Michigan might have been the second best team. Michigan went into the Ohio State game at 9-2, lost to Ohio State, got blasted by 4 scores, but then they beat Florida 41-7. Michigan might have been the second best team in the conference. And obviously, if Michigan doesn't make that blunder of a play against Michigan State, they beat Michigan State. That Michigan State team was not as good as the teams that won the Rose Bowl against Stanford and the Cotton Bowl against Baylor. They were not as good as the 2010, 11, 12, 13. Well, the one of the teams in there, the 2012 team wasn't good, 7-6. But the Michigan State in 2015, the team that made the playoff was not as good as the 2010, 11, and 13 and 14 teams. Similar to Ohio State making the playoff in 2016, that 2016 team wasn't as good as the 2015 team, or maybe not even as good as 2017. Good to see a Wholesome One. Would love Wholesome One. You know you're always welcome here. So I'd love to get your take on the game. So if you can email me, we'll get together, or text me. Just text me. And I know that even if you can't do it tomorrow night, maybe sometime on Friday or sometime in the next few days, would love to get your take on the Canes game and the Independence Bowl, and then also the recruiting class. Would love it. Wake Forest is the other game. Okay. So probably playing what was this year, at least, the second best team, second or third best team, maybe the fourth best team. Between Wake, Louisville, Virginia, who pretty much all the same. This is got it. Thank you, Thomas. This is Big Ten. This is Thomas. It's just an amazing gesture on your part that you think that much of what I try to bring to the table. Matthew, I don't need my glasses. I got my contacts in. I would be doing this all the time if I didn't have my glasses on. So thank you. Crazy scenarios. Robert, LSU getting in the BCS in 07. Yes. These are the kind of discussions I wanted to have, and the type of college football history I wanted to run down in doing the series that I started last year, going through each season and saying, this is what happened, but do you realize that this could have happened very easily, or this did happen, or the voters decided this, but this team had just as good a resume. Why didn't they decide that? It's like sometimes, now we didn't get a crazy playoff scenario this year, unfortunately, but in all the other years, some people will say to me when I'll make a comment to the point, how do we know that those are the four best teams? Well, that's who the playoff selection committee selected. Yeah, that doesn't mean they're the four best teams. I make this point from time to time, that if the selection committee is so infallible in selecting the four best teams, why can't they seed them correctly? For 5 consecutive years, they have selected 4 teams. So we have no idea of knowing that those are the 4 best teams. They don't either. It's a difficult process. So I'm not faulting them. I'm just saying that they're not infallible. But if we entrust them to select the 4 best teams, then we should always also be trusting that they would seed them correctly. And they never have. The number 1 seed has never won the college football playoff. So they can't seed the teams correctly. Therefore, are they really selecting the best teams? We'll never know. Because the teams that get left out don't get to go in. So thank you, 2880, 28. Yeah, I think compared to most people, like I was having a conversation tonight with a UCF fan, and then we started talking about the NFL, and I made this comment. Now, this would be put to the test in the recent, just the last few years, because my memory is failing me and because I can't track the NFL like I used to, and a lot of you don't like the NFL, but this is just the way it is, there was a time very recently that I could have mentioned, and this doesn't mean that I took the time to memorize all this. It just sticks in my brain, and just because I'm so into it, I could have told you just about anything possible about Super Bowls. Meaning you could say Super Bowl 10, and I'd say Lynn Swann caught 4 passes for 161 yards and a touchdown. And Roger Staubach went 15 of 24 for 205 yards. I could do that with any Super Bowl. I'd give you the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receiver stats, the MVP, where they played the game, could give you the attendance of the game. I could tell you the score of every NFL playoff game in history. Not because I sat with an encyclopedia and looked at it. That doesn't do any good. It just sticks. And the same thing with college football. I could tell you the score of every Rose Bowl for the last 50 plus years. It's useless knowledge. It can be looked up on the internet. But when people make a comment that I'm a historian, I don't like to elevate myself to that status because there's a ton of stories out there and things going on and that I've not looked into. But when it comes to just sheer understanding what programs have accomplished what, who's won what. So, for example, the other night, there was an argument about Nick Saban on our live stream in which a couple people were having an argument about how effective he was at Michigan State. And they asked me, and I said, Nick Saban was at Michigan State from 1995 to 99. I'm going to guess, and I bet I come very close, that he went 35-25 at Michigan State. Then I went, and I looked it up. I said 35-25. He went 34-24. So that kind of stuff. Cheryl, thank you for your service. I've had to be around those facilities a few times for my family, and it is not to work in that environment on a daily basis has to take a very strong person with a lot of fortitude. Can I foresee the 2020s being the decade of the returning 2000 powers of, I believe that's supposed to be USC? Yes, I can see that. Texas? Yes, I can see that. Miami? I can't see it quite as much. Florida? I can see that. Nebraska? I can't see that quite as much for different reasons. Cheryl, yes, Zeke got 12 carries, maybe 13 in that game against Michigan State in 2015. Matthew, worrying about me. Please don't worry about me. There's no reason to worry about me. No. Ever is a long time. Ever is a long time. If they expand, yes. What is being done with a group of 5 right now is almost criminal. Criminal. Woo, it's getting late. Is almost criminal what's going on with the group of 5 because it's a tease. We're going to rank your teams. We'll put you at 17 and 13. And if you go undefeated, we'll even put you at 7 or 8. But you really don't have a chance, a snowball's chance in hell of going to the playoff. We're not going to do that. And I'm not saying that those teams should be selected for the playoff. I'm just saying that they shouldn't be given. It's a farce to rank them, but not give them any consideration to go to the playoff. Yes, Matthew, I've been called that many times. And I don't have a photographic memory. Some people think I do because they'll say, how did you remember that UCLA beat Iowa 45-28 in the 1985 Rose Bowl? And I'll say, I just remember seeing the score on the screen and it's stuck with me. Remember the first weekend of the college football season, I'm sitting at my desk. It's a Thursday night. The first college football night, UCLA played Cincinnati. I'm sitting there watching them. The guy walks by, had no idea that they played the previous season, just threw it out there and said, because he loves just throwing stuff at me and seeing what I'm going to say, what the answer is. And he said, what was the score the last time Cincinnati and UCLA played? And I said, well, they just played last year. It's 23-14. Somebody said to me tonight at work, they were talking about bowl games and that they can't remember even their team score. And I said, I remember the score of every bowl game that was played this season, and I will remember it. If you asked me the score of every bowl game last season, I'd get almost all of them. Did I try to remember them? No, I didn't try to. They're there. I think we have come to the end. Thank you so much, everyone, for the contributions in whatever way that you made them. We've got 70 on the line. I've been on for 2.5 hours, and yes, it is 2 a.m. I got to get up at 7 a.m. That's a good night's sleep if I get to sleep. But before that, I actually made a long to-do list that I need to do before that. Got to do the dishes. I've got to buy somebody special something for their birthday because their birthday is very close to Christmas. So I just got them a Christmas gift and now a birthday gift. So I got to take care of that. Tomorrow I've got to find a hotel at Disney World, but that's tomorrow. Tonight, I also have to upload some audio for the audio podcast. So if you run into anyone who says, I don't have time to watch YouTube videos, you just let them know. We're on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. Although they're not going to be able to consume as much content there. I don't get all of it posted there. I got like 8 things to do before I go to bed. Yeah. And I pulled out my lower back yesterday. So sitting here has been fine. I've not been in any pain, but once I get up, I'm going to feel it. Thank you, all of you, for being so amazing and for encouraging me and pushing me forward. Your comments push me in a good way, encourage me, pump me up, get me to do this. And we will continue on right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I will see all of you tomorrow night. I've got records at 7 and 7:30. So keep in mind, Mark's not slacking at 7 and 7:30 when you don't see me here live. I'm recording segments on Ohio State and Clemson. Then we'll be live with the Miami Louisiana Tech post game. And then I'm going to watch the games and provide instant analysis on the games as well. Anakin, Anna, Robert, everybody, thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate it. James as well, of course. You're amazing. We will see you very soon right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, here, 8 o'clock Eastern time, live stream, Independence Bowl, wrap up.